Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the third episode of Women's AM this week, dedicated to the topic on domestic violence. On Monday, we introduced to you the scale and impact of domestic violence. And for many of us, the statistics were shocking. Yesterday, we shared with you the story of brother Abdul Malik Taylor, who himself endured domestic violence, initially at the hands of his father, then at the hands of his wife. Today, we want to share the story of another victim who survived abuse at the hands of her then husband. We have with us Marzana Rahman. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, sister.
Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honour to be here today, to be able to bring light to this situation, which I'm very passionate about.
And just so our viewers know, this is the first time that you are actually openly talking about it on a public platform.
Yes.
And to a depth that even many of your family members really don't know to what extent you suffered.
I'll be absolutely honest with you. I am generally a very personal person. Many people do not know what exactly happened, whether I am divorced, whether I'm still with him. So this is me coming out through yourselves, and also my mother and father do not know the depth of the situation, what exactly happened. All they know is that I went through a bad marriage and managed to walk out of it, persevere and turn my life around. So this is the very first time that anybody will be hearing about it. So.
And I pray that it helps many people out there who are going through this or have gone through it, and may Allah enable us to do justice
Inshallah,
to this topic.
That is
today.
the intention, and that is why I'm here today, because along the way I've spoken to many different women, touched on certain things that I went through, just to give them that encouragement that it's okay, and I will be working with a lot of women going forward. And I thought this would probably be a great idea when I spoke to you, coming out with my story to encourage people that it does happen. It's happened to me. So it's absolutely fine to fight that stigma, and that is my motive. That's what I want to do going forward, and hopefully I will be helping these people.
I certainly hope so. But just looking at you, listening to you, what sticks out to me a lot is the fact that you come across a very confident person. You don't look like someone who could be a victim, which is why, tell me a bit about yourself, your passions. Have you always been a confident and self-assured person?
Confidence is something that was built into me as a young child. My father is a predominant character. He's always been a businessman, mingling with different people of the Bengali society. So growing up, he made me feel like I needed to be this lioness. Also, I work in wealth management, and as a finance professional, you have to be confident. I meet a lot of high net worth clients who need to see me as somebody who can present myself. I walk into environments with my hijab, and I take people by surprise, but that confidence, yes, it's something that is very close to me, but I'm very good at poker face. So when it comes to emotions, I can push them aside, paint a smile on my face and walk out there.
And like you said, you work in a finance industry.
Yes.
You have to be confident, independent.
Yes.
You are a go-getter.
Yes.
So everything, what people would imagine to be contradictory to someone who can be a victim. So did you ever imagine that you, with your personality, could ever be a victim of domestic violence?
The reality is, it happens. Did I think that I could go through it? No. And the person that I was with, not in a million years would I or anybody else expect him to raise his hand on me, to go to the extent that he did. I mean, I knew him for 4 years before we had our nikah, and...
Did you ever see even an inkling of his personality that could...
He was not an angry person, not that I mean, I would think that I was the fiery person. My mother as well would tell me, oh no, you should control yourself, because I'm the only daughter. So as you can imagine, I'm not spoiled, but daddy's princess. My dad's always been very encouraging, and he wanted the best for me. He wanted me to be an independent woman, And inside me, he planted those seeds so that I could go out there and become a predominant businesswoman like my father is. So, you know, I never once imagined that someone like me could be put in a situation where I've become so weak and frail to lose myself. And that's exactly what happened when I was in that situation. Yeah.
So you did get married.
Yes.
Take us back to when it all began. What happened? Did it begin with emotional abuse?
No, he went straight in for it. He didn't. So.
How long after your marriage? Because I know it was quite a short period of time before the abuse began.
The very next day.
The very next day after your marriage.
So, the day before we had our nikah, there was a family dispute, and that was amplified to a level that shouldn't have been. And when I obviously was in that situation, me being the fiery person that I am, I was like, do you know what, I can't deal with this, I can't be bothered, like, the wedding's off. At that point, my mum turned around and she was like, no, you know, you can't do this, everything's happening. I had my best friend telling me, you know, he's a nice guy, forget everything, give him a chance. I had him on the phone, crying his eyes out. He wanted to be with me for the rest of his life. So the day after the nikah, there was an occasion at our house where they were invited round for dinner. And at that point, his mother turned around and with my dad, she was like, oh, you didn't answer my calls. And it got very aggressive. And she said some very hurtful and spiteful things. And that caused a huge commotion in the house, in my mum's house. So much so that everybody was going at blows to one another. And I was confused. I had never been in that situation. I didn't know what to do. And something of my past was touched, which is also a secret that I've held very close to my heart. And I will touch on this slightly later on. I want to focus on the actual abuse because that's why we're here today. But that topic was raised and everybody was shocked. And at that point came out that my ex-partner was married for 10 years before. So while he was with me, he was with somebody else. He was married to a cousin. And it took everybody by surprise. And
you didn't know this either?
I had no idea. He told me that he had some sort of a contract marriage because somebody wanted to become a citizen of this country. I saw past it. It meant nothing to me because I was deeply in love with this person. And at that stage, when it came out that I was the reason behind this breaking of the marriage, I was like, what is this? I didn't know you were with anybody. You know, this is new to me. You were with your cousin for 10 years. Is this a joke? A lot of spiteful things were said, but at that moment...
and was all of this day after?
The day after. The nikah. And at that point, when my father said to him, get out of my house, my daughter does not need to go with you, just let it be. He turned around and he said, I'm not going without her. And he held on to my hand, and I was literally in a position where I had my father who had his arm around me trying to protect me, and my husband that was holding my hand and saying, I'm not going to leave her. So I was in the middle of two men that are very important to me, that love me very dearly, and bearing in mind this was the very next day after my nikah. And one thing that came into my mind was I did not want to be a 2-minute divorcee. And I'm going to use the word.
And there is a reason.
That is a reason, and I'm going to use the reason, the word again. And I will now tell you that secret that I have kept so close inside my heart. No one knows. At the age of 18, I was married to a stranger for a short period of time, probably about 10 days. And because of that small incident, my father was very guilty, and that's probably why he accepted this man that I had met and decided to marry, even though he assumed that he wasn't good enough
just
for
to
me.
give a little bit of background to that, because you and I talked quite in depth about this, and one of the reasons why your father arranged a marriage with someone he chose for you at the age of 18 was because of the fact that your dad is a successful businessman. You were growing up, so a lot of people were quite keen on trying to propose. So your father was protecting you. That he saw this as a way to protect you, and obviously this failed quite quickly. You didn't even live with the person. There was a family feud, and that broke.
Yes.
So hence, when you say you didn't want to be a 2-minute divorcee, when you married him, there was this pressure that you pressured yourself with, that I don't want this marriage to break again without me trying.
Exactly.
So you were married. The next day he took you home.
So yes, he took me home. So at that moment, when there was that clash and I was torn between these two people, his brother came to attack my father, and my brothers kicked off. Now my brothers are, alhamdulillah, 6'2", 6'3", very strong built boxers. That's what they do as a hobby, and I thought this is going to be a blood feud. So I went with him, and that was I think that was my mistake, because I went with him, it sort of gave him the green card to do whatever he wanted. We sat there, and I'll speed this up a bit and get to exactly where the abuse started. The very next day we had another occasion. Because I'm the only daughter in the family, my uncle had given us an invitation to go round. And his mother kicked off, and she was like, I'm not going to go after everything that happened, X, Y, Z. In my mind, I thought, okay, the invitation's for me and him. I want to forget about everything that's happened. The fact that I'm here after everything that's happened, that should be enough for you guys to forget it, because I buried it under the sand. And I said to him, your mother's going to cause the end of us. This is ridiculous. Boom.
He hit you.
He hit me with so much force that I dropped to the ground.
He punched you?
It was a very big guy. So his hands were probably as big as my face. And he slapped me. It was a thump. So it just literally went whack across my face. And I remember it was this side, and I literally dropped. And as soon as I dropped, he dropped as well. And he was like, oh, my God, I can't believe I did that. I'm so sorry. I love you so much. And
this was day 2?
This was day 2. And I was mute. I actually did not know what to say. And for the whole 24 hours after that day, not a word came out of my mouth, because I did not expect him to do it. And I had these mixed questions in my head. Was it my fault? What did I do? What did I do for him to think that it's okay to hit me? What did I say? And
the fact is that it continued. How long did this continue for? His abuse got worse?
So after that occasion, he did feel quite emotional about what he had just done. And 3 to 4 weeks later, I was at work, and he came to see me. There was a monetary issue. And again, I said something like, I mean, his values were quite different to what I was used to. I mean, in my household, my dad's the breadwinner. If my mum goes out with my dad, she does not take her purse. And you assume that's the traditional way, and etc. Me being a working woman, I've never had that in my mind, like, oh, you need to pay the bill, or etc. I've always been that person, that given person. And we were talking about something, and he said how his ex-partner was willing to take out a mortgage of $250,000 for him. This was a girlfriend and not the wife that he had. And I was like...
So he was also taking financial advantage of yourself,
yes,
getting you to pray a lot, trying to scheme money. Also, just to mention, the house that you lived in was a house bought as a gift by your father.
Yes.
But with that, knowing his whole entire family had moved in. Yes. But just to fast forward, the abuse continued. How bad did it get?
So this occasion, when we were talking about these finances, and he mentioned that, I turned around and said, well, you should have married her. Why did you marry me? And he started swearing. He took me by my hijab, pushed me down, and he punched me. Because that was the second occasion in public, like, I'm not having this.
In public?
In public.
Who was there?
So
was it out on the street?
It was at that occasion. It was like a car park that was next to my workplace, but there was a block of flats, and because we were in the car, you know, the people around probably did not realise exactly, because I tried to get out. He grabbed my hand, he got me in the car, and he locked the car, and he drove round. And I was screaming. I was like, let me go. I want to go. Just get away from me. And then he again grabbed me and he kept punching me. I can't remember exactly, because at the time it was like, is this really happening? And I remember covering my face, being in tears. And as I went like this, my hand was full of blood. And there was a chunk of meat from my cheek on my hand.
So he's very aggressive. The whole abuse
he was quite aggressive. And this for me was, it was like, this is it. I can't do this anymore. I can't believe this is happening to me. And along the way, he had been emotionally abusive, in the sense that he'd say certain things. You know,
how long did this go on for?
Up until that occasion, so it was a month, and then I went away, came back, and when I did come back, about 3 whole months, I took blow after blow from him, his mother, and the final straw was when his brother punched me.
Oh, but his mum also
was abusive
aggressively
as well. Yes, I mean, when
your husband beat you.
Yes.
Your mother-in-law beat you,
yes,
and your brother-in-law hit you,
yes,
and he allowed all of that to happen. Tell me about that one occasion when his mother was beating you and you were screaming. What was it that your husband said?
He said, "Don't scream. What's wrong with you?
People will hear.
People are going to hear. You're going to get us in trouble."
So it wasn't he didn't come to protect you.
No.
He didn't come to stop you. Rather, he was telling you to be quiet.
I think that was a shocker as well, because when you think of a partner, you think, this is my protector. And in Islam, that's what's told as well. You should protect your wife. Mm. And when a girl leaves her household, and I was protected by my 2 brothers and my father, they were very protective.
You didn't tell them about what was going on, did you?
I couldn't, because this was somebody that I loved very dearly, and also he emotionally abused me to the extent that he told me that he would get my father killed. I thought he was East London's biggest gangster.
He built up a profile of himself, actually.
Yes, he did.
Which is another aspect of the abuse. He built up this profile of himself. He made you really scared of him.
I was petrified.
He'd make threats in terms of hurting your father, your brothers.
He even had a gun.
Him.
He had this gun, which at the time he convinced me that it was real and he could do anything. And I used to say to him, you need to get that gun out. What if something happens? This is how I don't know what word to use, because now when I look at it, I think that girl was pretty stupid to think that. But at the time, I was innocent.
This is the point, though. You did leave. You kept coming back. And when you talk about personalities such as yours, and you've grown stronger again now, but what did he strip away from you to the point that you kept coming back? What did he do?
I felt like I couldn't live without him. He had that hold on me. He was a very good salesman and a charmer. I'd like to use the word chancer. He knew. Did
he make you ever feel that it was your fault that you led him to hitting you?
Always. You know, he'd say things like, why do you make me do this? There was one occasion where he sat there and he said, I know exactly how to hurt you. I can bring in another woman and sleep with her in this very bed right in front of your face. Now, when you love somebody and they say that to you, it makes you feel really bad. It makes you feel like, oh my God, I'm not good enough for my husband. He can bring somebody else in. He can replace me just like that.
Let's give you a moment. Let's go in a break and come back to this, inshallah. See you back in a bit. Assalamu alaikum.